Thank you, everybody. So yes, I am the artist that makes the barbed wire sculptures. And what's that? Well, this is for something else. This is for a different thing. Should I talk louder? I love the opportunity to yell. Anytime I get, I want to yell. There's two questions that I get asked a lot with my sculpting work, and it's how do I do this, and do I wear gloves? So I focused on those two things, and I brought my gloves. That's what this is all, and this is like the glove collection for the duration of making that. So when I work with the wire, it's very, gosh, how do I say that? I'm really close to it. So any kind of gloves that are baggy are always in the way and getting caught. So gloves that are tight fit and wrapped in duct tape is my favorite kind of glove. I collect a lot. I collect all my material. It's all used. Most of the wood comes from old mines and homesteads throughout Montana that I go and I look on the maps, and there's always like little, what do you say, little marks where it tells you where mines are, and I'm stuck to finding those. So every summer I spend out in the mountains collecting wood. Oh, there's Junie. Which is what I use for bases. To me, the base is probably the most important part of my sculptures, because it's like, mostly it's what I can attach to with barbed wire. I've built barbed wire sculptures freestanding with no structure or anything. I've built barbed wire sculptures with rebar structures inside. And then wood and concrete. And wood seems to be kind of the more forgiving to attaching the barbed wire. And I have some photos on it. This wood was donated from a friend, and it did come from a mine. A lot of the wood, some of it is preserved really nice, and other pieces of wood are basically powder. And I found that to be true with this one. And typically I would feed this to the fire. And there's something about this piece of wood, the color of it, and then also the variations of texture on it that I was so drawn to, that I couldn't set it on fire and get rid of it. But when I started working with it, like I said, complete powder. I kind of call it the life cycle of the wood. Took it apart, and I kept digging and I kept digging, and I did not want to give up on it. And the further I went, the more attached I got to it, looking at the color that it offered, playing with that life cycle of it and trying to preserve it. And then also the story behind the piece of wood. I am so drawn to the story behind it, especially coming from an old mining community. It's like, what did that piece of wood serve? Like, what was its purpose? Who were the people who worked with this wood? My mind just it digs into those stories. And then for me to kind of stop the decay of it and preserve it again and then give it a new life is what feeds me to keep going on these pieces, especially this piece of wood. So, as you can see, the further I get, the more powder it turned to. But then I got to a point where I found enough wood that I could work with and started attaching barbed wire to. And then at this point, I knew with this piece I wanted to go vertical with it. Let me back up a little bit. This is the third piece of this series, and I call it the water stick. And I had so much fun with this because it was a new approach to the designs that I've been building. And I spend a lot of time in the woods just kind of paying attention to stuff that's around me and sounds and the rhythm that wind plays. And this I found on the river. And I don't know what it is that drew me to it. I mean, it's kind of a cool shape, right? And I sat on it for a while thinking, like, how in the heck could I turn this into barbed wire? And how could I learn from this shape and have, how do I say this? There's a debate that I have in my mind of what is a natural shape or an organic shape. And I think for the majority of us, we're going to think of something smooth, right? Is that true to say that? An organic shape would be something round, something flowing. But the more I pay attention to it, I think that it's more rigid and random, natural shapes. So I really was in debate with myself on that topic of natural versus unnatural, and how I could translate that myself as being the translator for that idea. Okay, so back to the vertical number 3 water stick. At this point, I started to think about how to make it secure and how to make it grounded. That's something that I really have to think about with barbed wire. I don't want something that's going to be tippy and it's going to fall on somebody or be dangerous. So that's where the concrete came in on this piece. It grounds it. And I also, as I was pouring it, I wanted to keep this life cycle pattern, right, of the decay kind of going down into the concrete instead of having a solid block. And to do that, with concrete is kind of fun because I took some of the chunks of the wood that I pulled out and I submerged it into the concrete to give it that same pattern, which I'm really happy with, and I think it worked out. And then from concrete, I always like to give a little accent on the bottom of metal, which also helps with moving because there's going to be a lot of tipping going on for moving. And so let's see here. Accent on the bottom metal, nothing is ever square. Everything has to be custom because of working with natural materials. Let me see here. So then the next fun step begins, and it's the barbed wire. So basically what I did, which is completely new to me, is I did this. I stood back, and I held up the stick, and I kind of went with that design. Now attaching barbed wire, it literally is piece by piece. And there was a tension that I wanted to have happen with this piece. I don't know if you can, it's probably better to see it this way. Some people say it looks like a striking cobra. And I think it's because the tension that happens up here. Barbed wire, I'm kind of fascinated by it because I like to call it the tension memory. And what I mean by that is that this is tension memory. So working with a lot of the old barbed wire, it's kind of set in its design and its patterns and its shape, right? Because it's been sitting like this for who knows how long. So my job is to get rid of this for every single line. I come through and I cut the barbed wire. And I always start with a straight line. So I have to remove the tension memory. And this is literally every single piece of barbed wire. And I kind of gauge the size and the length that I'm going to work with. So removing that tension, and then having kind of a blank slate to give it its new tension memory, which for this piece, I really had to exaggerate the tension going in so that the fragile piece of wood will be held together up here and down here. So there's this kind of tension play, I think, between the two pieces. And so to accomplish that, I come back in and I'll make my shape. And when I say exaggerated, I mean it's not going to be the exact. It's going to pinch more. And then when I tie it in, it's going to hold itself. And when you apply layer after layer, it becomes a solid mass that isn't bendable anymore. It's solid. So then I can work high. I can work on top of it, like the piece that's upstairs. There's an extra piece up on top of it because this becomes really solid. Does that make sense? So then for each piece, a lot of people I think that I weld this together, but welding I've tried and it doesn't work as well because if you know, welding has to have a contact point, and a lot of the material I work with is rusty. So to get that flow is almost impossible. It's doable, but it would take a very long time. And then welding marks, where the contact would be. I don't want any of that showing. So I had to come up with a new way to kind of camouflage the way that I connect it. And if you guys have a chance to come up and look at it close, I cut wire, little pieces of wire. And about every 6 inches, as I'm applying my wire, it's almost like sewing. I'll curve this and I'll sew it through, and then I twist it and make it look like another barb so that it blends in. So I really pay attention to detail on barbed wire with the color. There's so many different colors. So I'm thinking about that, matching to the wood, matching to the concrete. My favorite barbed wire is barbed wire that has lichen on it. And I just removed miles and miles out of the national forest. And it is the most beautiful barbed wire I have ever seen. I literally was pulling it out of the ground and just following it up the mountain. And it's so beautiful. It's green, it's orange, it's mossy, it's muddy. There's tufts of fur on it. So, wire to me also holds a life memory and thinking about how long it's been there, what's passed, who put it up, who's taking it down. Yeah?
Does the texture of that lichen change at all or in any ways after you've pulled it up and impact how you work with it?
Not so far. I would say I have some pieces that are maybe 3 years old and it is exactly the same. I don't fix it. I don't water it. It's just kind of, I don't know if the rust does something to keep it preserved. I'm not sure. It's like more scientist. But no, so far it's all just stayed the same. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, and there's also different barbed wire barbs, which are really fascinating. There's some that are really, really large. I don't know, they're like a quadruple barb. And so thinking about shape and stuff, if I were to apply something like this in layers like that, you can imagine it's going to create more space as the barbed wires kind of touch and hold. So something like this is not going to give me a really dense as compared to like a barbed wire that's a smaller barb, and I can like squish those really together, which will give me a mass for creating something if I need it to be really strong. Let's see here. What else do I got in here? Oh yes, this is water stick number 2. This one is 3. This is the one right before this one that I did, horizontal. But same concept, holding it up and kind of sizing it that way. Everything else up until this point for me has been kind of a made-up shape, made-up design, coming from paying attention, especially to fields when I'm collecting barbed wire, and seeing like the wind pattern going through grass, or the wind pattern going through the grass and the snow flattens it, and then you have like more circular patterns that are designed, I guess, by nature, which is the one upstairs, was kind of more of that idea. Windrights is the one upstairs, what that one is called. This is the first one I did. This one, a lot of this one is about balance. And having one little contact point and making sure that it's going to balance this way and it's going to balance this way. Because the barbed wire in a mass like that does get pretty heavy. So that, water stick number 1. Oh, and I'm not good with documenting what I do or taking pictures at all, but I did find 3 pictures of the piece upstairs that I wanted to include, and that piece started first with a drawing. I had the idea of it first, and then I worked kind of, they're not all started from drawings first. This one, of course, was the model. Sometimes I'll find a piece of wood, and the wood gives me an idea of what shape to play with the wood. But the one upstairs was a drawing first, and then I found the wood, which came from a brothel. It is outside of Townsend, late 1800s. It's like the only building that's left, and it's really beautiful. But that piece of wood, mining community, same thing, came from there. Let's see, what do I have next? That's the wood finished. There is the lightness, weightness I like to play with a lot of them. And what I mean is giving it a little bit of space. If you notice upstairs, there's just a little bit of gap. And to me, I like to feel like it kind of lifts everything a little bit. Oh yes, and the one upstairs, this one, to get it to stay, was more focused on that tension, bringing it in. And the one upstairs, I drilled holes in the wood. And then I would clamp the barbed wire and tap it in. And that's how that one is all held together. Sometimes I'll use a bolt or screws in there to hold it in place just to get a start. Rebar is another one. Yeah, that's all I have for pictures. But did you have a question, or are you just picturing here? Yes?
So you're starting with the first piece, and you said you drilled a hole. Is that first piece kind of guiding then everything that's coming after it?
What's that? Sorry, the door was rattling.
So the first piece you said you drilled in,
Yes.
and then
I don't know if you can see it from back there, but so there's a pattern that I'll start with of how thick or thin I want to go. And it kind of tapered like this. And if you can see, there's all these tiny little holes right here. Can you see all those? Mm-hmm. So is that what you're asking? Yeah. I attach and I leave enough space, because it's really airy if you do it that way. And then wherever there's space is where I'll add more strands of barbed wire and then tie them in to give it that really like dense, not transparent look. Is that what you were wondering?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
This is kind of a goofy question.
Yeah.
My aunt was a sculptor, and when I was a kid, I was just always through all these old farms, that were being abandoned, ready for development, and I would drag all this stuff home for her to sculpt.
Yes.
With. So are people just always bringing you barbed wire?
No. Yes and no. So I started collecting barbed wire with an ad in the newspaper, and I got miles and miles, and that was probably the funnest barbed wire removal, because he took me out to his land, and he's like, from down there to about down there, you can have all this barbed wire. So spending all that time outside, listening, watching, is so peaceful. And I think that silence and that peace, giving myself that kind of lifestyle, opens me up to be able to pay attention to anything that's trying to like feed me. Because it's like, I don't always know what's going on. I think a lot of artists don't always know what's going on. Is that true? Or do you know what's going on all the time? But I think just having that kind of lifestyle is like what fuels me to pay attention, to see these shapes or these patterns that are out there. Like this stick, you know, it's, right, it's like, it would be so easy to pass, but it's just like, whoa, this is coming home with me. My tools for making sculpture are very simple. I have pliers, I got clippers for clipping the ends of the tie wire, a hammer, because sometimes I really will bash the pattern and the shape in. But that's it for as far as attaching and making it a whole. And I like that. I like simple. Yeah.
But barbed wire is something that was a barrier that kept things apart.
Yeah.
Is that part of the thinking that why you're using it?
There is so many parts of it, and that definitely, yes, is one of them. Yeah, it's, so I was talking to you about it. As a kid, I always worked with barbed wire, smaller gauge, and I would always wrap things, from rocks to crystals to deer parts. And I didn't know then what was going on, but I know now that I was studying shapes, removing what that object is and just seeing it for its shape. And I think gradually, when I found barbed wire as a medium to work with, it kind of was familiar to me because of that, working with wire. And it's sticky. So applying it works really well for what I'm doing. It will stick to itself fantastically.
How it was used?
There is a part of the barbed wire and kind of taming it that I enjoy, because it is pricky and sticky and it hurts. To make it look soft, you know, it's like I get to change it a little bit. I get to control the narrative of what that becomes. Is that what you're asking?
Well, kind of, but you know, as a, materials themselves say something, and rather than just how you use it, but it was used to divide things up and
Yep.
keep this cattle from that cattle, or this.
The range
that from
wars we were
that,
also
and
talking about.
All that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
so it has a real history, especially that you use old barbed wire, beyond just the material aspects of it.
Yeah, the memory of it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, there's all of that. Yeah. I wouldn't say that thinking about that is the main thing. There's like so many other aspects to it. But it probably has become part of what I do after the fact, after working on it, as opposed to starting with that idea first.
The first thing I think of is where this originates, the factory that manufactures hundreds of thousands of millions of miles.
Miles and miles.
Schools
Yeah.
schools, when
And
you
I
drive
think,
down the highway, it's mind-boggling to see
yes.
by hand mostly, just drive from here wherever, and there's mile after mile of 4 or 5 strands of rhubarb, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barbed wire.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like part of an infinity. You can't even, so it becomes part of the nature. It's not a divide, it becomes merged in an industrial element,
Right.
right? And it's steel.
Yeah.
And it's manufactured by machines. So it's like the connection of the machine into every two-dimensional or three-dimensional transition that is also connected to the industrial asphalt that you see this from in the highway. So there's this continuum.
Yes.
And then you take this and spin it off back to nature, is what it seems like. And it's just a small part of it.
There's also something to that is just like really fascinating, and it's the barbs themselves. Look at that piece.
Yeah.
I think there's 1,500, I think I read it right, 15 or 1,400 different patents for barbs. Yeah.
That part of it too.
Yeah.
The design.
And that gauge of that wire, I mean, it was started as a full strand of wire, and they took every single one and just like,
Yeah, and this is like a spiral.
Yeah.
It's spiraled around the core. So it's like a helix,
yeah.
and it's infinitely variable. I'm going to have to steal some of this stuff.
I know, if you ever see like a big roll of that, please tell me, because I have not found that anywhere else. I found that one in California.
Yeah, and you talk about the tension.
The tension,
And the compression.
Yep.
And the tension memory.
tension memory, yeah.
It's just like nature and gravity and motion.
Yeah,
And steel is a part of nature too, by the way. So this is actually.
it is, yeah.
It's actually sort of more organic than wood even. Like you think it's a wood being, but in a way
I know you.
Working with metal is so much fun. I don't know if you want to pass that around, but it's like, that is like an old, really cool piece of barbed wire. Yeah, it sure is.
So can you speak to why you chose to use old wires? It's like a new.
Yeah, the new wire is way too springy. It is horrible to work with. I can remove that tension, but it's too obvious where I put the bends, and I can't get it to be straight like this. Some of the really rusty barbed wire is so fantastic because you can kind of straighten it out and then it'll stay, and then you can bend it back. Becomes a little fragile if there's too many bends and it'll break, but the really rusty stuff is fantastic to work with. And also the new barbed wire is so pokey. It's like working with needles.
I don't think they make it in the United States anymore.
I don't know.
They don't.
I don't know where they make it.
I worked a bunch of years ago with Richard Swanson to do a barbed wire piece at Rocky, and they found that there was the last factory left in Indiana, but anymore it comes from China.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
Well, this is such an important cultural development in the West. I mean, not just the fact that we could go ahead and section our land off from someone else's, but like in the modern times, there's a legal definition for a fence. It needs to be a 4-strand fence that does need to be set at certain dimensions, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that kind of speaks to where we're at in agriculture today, is that when you have a legal definition for a fence, that's to help prevent you from liability, you know, the modern challenges of ranching, and it all clicks back to what is this stuff made of. So when people go, oh, I have a fence and it's a 3-strand and 2 strands are laying on the ground, you're like, friend, that is not a strand. You got a tight 4-strand fence.
Yeah.
And so that's fascinating, just in what that speaks to culturally and how that plays into our modern economy. Right? So this is, yeah, it's really cool that you're making something of old things. And
Yeah. And then also the new barbed wire, it doesn't have its story, you know. It's just new wire.
yeah, right?
Yeah. You know, the first gentleman who let me collect the barbed wire, he was just like, "What are you gonna do with this wire?" And he was just kind of like, "Whatever." And then I showed him what I built, and he was like, "Wow, that's really cool." And it was it was like somebody else who wasn't, you know, it's like I brought in somebody else to be like, "Oh yeah, there's something else that can be done with this, and this is really neat," instead of just this tool, barbed wire tool. Yeah.
How long a piece of wire can you work with before you have to start thinking about, like, my arms are only this far and I have to get some more wire?
Yeah, when I usually use a full strand to whatever shape I'm going for as the beginning. And a lot of the times, you know, one strand of barbed wire is bendy and movie, so I'll have like a lot of props holding that one in. And then I'll build to it like this. I was building the center first to make this strong so that I could go longer, but it's always like one strand that starts it all, so I can kind of see where I'm following, yeah. And you know, there's a lot of times too with the barbed wire that I'll follow its pattern. I'll follow what it has instead of fighting against it. And I think a lot of times that helps with that fluid movement, yeah.
Sharon, with the development, are you having become more difficult finding the wire that you?
No. No. It's really great. It's word of mouth, and there's always somebody who contacts me at the right time, and they're like, hey, we got some barbed wire for you. So, yeah, that old piece, yeah, it's super cool. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, yeah.
So thank you for being here.
Yeah.
This is the first time seeing your art,
Mhm.
so thank you
Yeah, thanks for having me.
for talking about it. Do you work in smaller formats, or have you
I've tried.
experimented with color, or is this
So
all of the kind of
both of those,
sections of those?
I tried small, and it doesn't speak the same way. Especially with like, there's something to building it up and making it a bigger mess, and when you work small, it's just kind of like the barbed wire. But the color one, yes, I've been thinking about doing a white piece, and I'm experimenting. I used to be a house painter, and we worked a lot in oil paint, so I'm kind of experimenting with what paint is going to hold so that the rust doesn't come through, and which paint's going to hold better on a scratchy surface as opposed to something that's going to be really smooth. So yeah, there's a white one on the horizon. Yeah. Yeah.
The wood is untreated? On the side that has the color, is that just that you haven't like put something on it to make sure it doesn't keep turning into dust?
Which, the wood?
Yeah.
No, the wood is completely raw. And I wanted
It's
to,
going to do whatever it's going to do.
absolutely, and I love that. I love that idea, just to let it kind of, I'm preserving it a little bit
Well,
by scraping away,
yeah.
but especially for this piece, yeah, yep. Yeah, the barbed wire will be standing when everything else is gone.
And you can make it a horizontal?
Yeah, right? Or a hanging piece. Each sculpture, it's really great. Each sculpture always feeds into the next one. Especially with this rotten wood and following it through this time instead of getting rid of it, I all suddenly am walking the same paths that I used to walk for 20 years. And like everything is new. All suddenly I'm looking at all these rotten trunks with these gorgeous shapes, you know, and it's like, what is that? Just experimenting this way is going to lead to something else. And every single piece has been like that for me. So it keeps feeding me. Yeah.
Who inspires you?
What inspires me?
Who inspires you?
Who?
Is there some artist?
No, it's myself. It really is. Being an artist has never been supported in my family. It's always kind of like, oh, you doing some crafts, you're just messing around, you know. It wasn't a profession. And I stuck to what spoke to me, and it has been a hard path, and I kept sticking with it. But there's artists I like out there, but if there's anybody who's going to inspire me, it's somebody who I've met and who's my friend.
Boy, thank you for that answer. It certainly reflects, now I got it.
Yeah, cool. It's honest. It's honest.
Brings just
Yeah.
it's certainly reflecting that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you work on more than one piece at a time?
So I also do drawings, soft pastels on paper, and sometimes I'll have them going at the same time. I've been working with barbed wire for 20 years, and I'm starting to feel it. I am constantly like this, twisting, you know, all day long. And so I feel it in my wrists, I feel it in my shoulders. So the drawings give me a nice break. So I do bounce between the two. But not two barbed wires at the same time. And I do think for every one barbed wire piece I built, there's 11 that have passed through that will never get built in the process of making one. So
How long did this take?
this is probably 2.5 weeks. The bigger piece, I give myself about a month. The one upstairs was a full month, yeah. Yeah.
Ending, no wonder your wrists hurt.
Hi, Junie.
Do you have any photos of your drawings that you could show us?
I don't, Yeah. Yeah, not my computer. My drawings are mostly portraitures. I've been doing some birds. They're life-size, and they're kind of weird. Would you say they're weird? Yeah, thank you. I get asked too, like, how are you working with barbed wire and then doing drawings? And there's something about the layering and lines that I think is very similar. The materials are different, but the process, I think, is the same for drawing and sculpting. So the piece, I just remember, the piece upstairs, just when you think you know it all, my friend came to visit me, and she goes, Jen, those look like your drawings I used to draw as a kid. And I was just like, I totally forgot about it. But I used to draw these ribbon patterns, two-dimensional on paper, playing with bringing it three-dimensionally out of the paper. And it looked like the sculpture upstairs. So there's something else bigger going on sometimes. Yeah.
Along those lines, I was going to ask you, you talked about wrapping and things with wire as a child. So then, was there, like, what brought you back to that?
To wire?
Yeah.
I don't think it ever stopped.
Okay.
Yeah, it just was like a gradual finding the one wire that is like God, which is barbed wire. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Your progression, you started out like an Aunt Dose with Dave Kirk.
Yeah.
Much looser with your barbed
The barbed wire, yeah.
Yeah.
There is a huge learning that I have working with it. Like Junie said, they're really loose and they look so messy now. I'm so embarrassed to see them. I just saw the one in Miles City and I was like, what a mess. Like, gotta tighten that up a little bit.
I asked you about that, so you.
But yeah, so, it's, yeah, they started loose because it's like I was learning how I could attach it to itself and to another material. And so starting there, just kind of like, I don't know how to say this, but I was like sticking it into itself and then kind of letting it go up here free. I don't know if I can go backwards. I should try and make one that's like really loose again. Yeah.
Other questions for Jennifer? Jennifer, I have to say it feels really special to hear you talk about the through thread between your creativity as a child and your creativity today while we have the fifth grade reception.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, I didn't even put the two together. But yeah.
May we come look?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, especially when you look in here, like, look at the little ties, because they're kind of fascinating once you see how many are in here.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.